now. ABC's.
Okay, and welcome to the WSJM video live stream. It happens all morning, every weekday from 7 to 8 o'clock here on WSJM. And I have a special guest in studio right now, Archie Davis, Mr. Archie Davis.
Yes.
Do you go by, what do you go by? What
Big,
should I?
Big Archie.
Big Archie.
Big Archie.
Okay. How'd you get that nickname?
Well, when I first started off at the G&W skating ring back in 71, they had 4 names for me, so I had to find me a name.
4 names.
4 different names, so I say Archie Davis sound too dull. Like I said, say Archie Davis. So they came up with Peter Pan. Well, that's weird.
Where'd that come from?
that come from the peanut butter jar.
Oh, okay.
Peter Pan.
Somebody saw a peanut butter jar and said, Peter Pan.
Peter Pan.
Okay.
So then they turned around and said Fat Albert, which the cartoon, because they told me I had, see, when I was short, and I was kind of stocky, and I had fat jaws back then. I said, no, that ain't gonna work. And then they came up with they say it was Big Archie. No, they came up with, they said, well, the guy at the roller rink, Jesse, the owner, Mr. Jesse Goodson, he said, well, I see you don't want Peter Pan. I said, no. He said, you don't want Fat Albert. I said, no. I said, well, then my other friend, John, he said, well, why don't you just say Big Archie?
Yeah.
I said, yes, that rings a bell, Big Archie. I said, but I didn't want those other names. I mean, they was just throwing names at me, and it didn't fit my category, right? And everybody said, well, at least Peter Pan was a little brighter than Fat Albert. I say, no peanut butter jar, no Fat Albert, Big Archie.
Yeah.
So ever since then, Ken, that's the name I've been using, all these years.
Okay.
And stuff. So back down there, we started off. Opened up the same time in 71 when Soul Train came on.
Yeah.
Don Cornelius.
Oh,
I was watching it every week. So
after
that, the first day we opened, we charged $1, just $1 to get, let everybody know it was over about 500 people in that place.
Wow.
And it was 2 DJs, because when I first started down there, my friend that stayed in the neighborhood, he said, man, they getting ready to open the skating ring up. You want to go down there and play? I said, yeah, let's go down there and put an application in. I was young. I was going on 12 years old then.
Yeah.
So I told the guy, John, my friend John Newby, I said, John, let's go down there. So he said, well, what you want to do? Work on skates? I said, no, that ain't my hobby. I don't want to work on the skates. So we had one turntable in the corner, and they had all the speakers in the back. So I said, that's what I want to do right there. He said, you know about music? I said, yes. So one night.
How old were you then?
I was 12.
Okay.
I turned 12. And John, he was like 15. And, for a young person, they didn't have wasn't no summer jobs back then. So I just wanted to do something and then, and stuff. So after I got down there, one of the DJs, Lionel Johnston, good friend of mine who passed away back in the 80s, he was doing Sunday nights and I was doing Thursday nights. So Jesse told me, he said, I already had my music. I had 45s that I brought from AB's record shop on Main Street back in the day. He used to supply me with records and stuff.
Man.
So he tricked me one night. They said, oh, Lionel said he's not coming in today. He's sick with the flu. I say, oh, well. So I got up there and moved my roots around and stuff. And I saw all them people coming out. I said, oh, boy, I was so sick in the nerves. I said, I'm finna relax and take my time. So he tricked me. I found out he was standing in the door way back there.
They were testing you.
Yeah, testing me. And I said, Lonnie, I thought you were sick. And we had over 350 kids. And back then, we was going 6 to 9:30.
That's great. That's a good crowd.
And it was a good crowd. And Ken, ever since then, that's what started off on that one night on the Thursday. Back in the 70s.
Playing at the roller rink.
At the roller rink.
That's amazing.
Because what people fail to realize, that roller rink been there since 1964, but it was owned by Rick Shealy.
Okay.
He was the original owner of the skating ring. And a lot of people didn't know it. So after Rick Shealy, decided to get out of the business, that's when Jesse Goodson and Ivory Williams, they went partnership. That's why they named it G&W.
Oh, okay.
Because a lot of them didn't know what G&W stand for. It stand for Goodson and Williams.
Goodson and Williams. And right there, we're going to have to put a pin in it because I've got to get some local news.
Okay.
But we're going to talk with Mr. Archie Davis. Big Archie.
Big Archie.
Big Archie. Coming up in just a moment right here on WSJM.
That's 27cash.com. 27cash.com.
WSJM News Now. Team coverage from the WSJM Newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
7:05, it's the WSJM Morning Show. Good morning. I'm here, Ken Lundberg, with Archie Davis, Big Archie.
Yeah, Big Archie. Ken said Peter Pan would have been good without it.
Peter Pan would have been okay. No, Big Archie is much more suited. Archie Davis is my guest this hour. He'll be with us here the whole hour, and we've got a lot to talk about. Right. He's celebrating 57 years being a DJ here in Benton Harbor. Benton Harbor, and you've been on the radio. You've been. We were just talking about how you used to DJ at roller rinks, the GW roller rink, G&W, and Goodson and Williams,
right? Goodson and Williams,
and
those guys, that they saw a lot of potential in me and stuff. They say, "Well, you're kind of young to have a crowd," and the older DJ, they called me the baby DJ because all the rest of the guys was older. And they was in their 30s and 40s.
And here 57 years later, you're still doing it. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. We've got to get some weather, some news, and then we'll come back and do more of this, and we'll continue doing this on the radio and on the video live stream. But right now, let's see, partly sunny skies expected today, a 40% chance of rain showers, maybe some storms rolling through. We didn't really see that materialize yesterday. The high today around 82 degrees. And tonight's forecast, we'll see the clouds dissipate a bit, a low overnight around 64 degrees. We're picking up a wind from the north, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. That's going to bring us some nice temperatures overnight and a good day into tomorrow. Mostly sunny skies, high around 85. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, a good chance of rain, mostly on Saturday. Saturday's forecast now calls for a 60% chance of rain. Otherwise, partly cloudy. The high on Friday around 87. A high on Saturday, 85, and on Sunday, cooling off just a little bit to 83 degrees. Some of the news from the WSJM newsroom right now. Michigan State Police say a woman who had been reported missing Tuesday after walking away from a Paw Paw area home has been found alive and okay. Officials say 83-year-old Daisy Hoffman was found in a swamp almost a mile from a home on 35th Street north of 44th Avenue in Waverly Township, where she was last seen walking off around 1 p.m. Troopers say she was spotted by an MSP helicopter that was searching the area. Police say Hoffman is okay. Other stories, just after 3 p.m. yesterday, Allegan County Sheriff's Office responded to a water rescue on Lake Michigan. Just before 8 o'clock last night, though, officials shared an update saying the target of the rescue attempt, an 18-year-old man, had actually drowned. The water rescue effort were just north of Saugatuck. The sheriff's office said the man had been swimming off a boat without a life preserver. About a 4-hour search ensued, and then the body was recovered. The sheriff's office withheld the name of the victim pending notification of the next of kin. Other news, the South Haven City Council is looking into the possibility of adding a service fee to pay for a lifeguard program at city beaches. At the City Council's regular meeting on Monday, the body was asked to approve what would have been a renewal of the city's contract with concessionaires at South Beach and North Beach. City Manager Kate Hosier wanted the renewals with some amendments so the vendors have certainty about next year and they can start making their investments in new equipment. However, Councilmember Joe Reeser had a different idea.
Is it possible for us to approve the concessions to add a percentage to each bill, each sale, let's say 5%, to go towards beach safety? In other words, if we're going to have lifeguards, can we start to put any kind of fee on these concession stands, which will also help defer the cost of a lifeguard?
The city attorney said he'd have to look into the situation. Councilmember Letitia Wilkins said putting a surcharge on concessions didn't seem fair.
Because all the tourists are not going to use the concession stand. It just seems like if we want to have some type of surcharge, that it would be part of some type of tourism. I don't know how that will work.
Reeser said the fee could simply be on top of whatever the concessions would normally cost, suggesting part of it could stay with the vendor for the cost of implementation. City Manager Kate Hosier urged passage of the contract as presented. However, the council voted that down and its amendments until they hear back from the city attorney on Reeser's fee idea. Mayor Annie Brown said that wasn't fair to the vendors, adding she was disappointed. The council introduced a surprise matter into something that should have been routine. Other news, this weekend, it's the Krazel Art Fair on the Bluff in downtown St. Joseph. Organizers say the juried event will bring 172 artists to town. One of them is Michelle Stroud of Evanston, Illinois. This will be her first time selling her work at the fair. She tells us she was attracted to the Krazel event because it's run by real people.
What I mean by that is that it's not it's not a business that does 300 fairs across the country or even 20 fairs in a particular region, but that it's a fair that's run by an arts organization or a community organization where the people that are organizing and running the fair are really invested.
Stroud says such organizers are concerned about the community and the artists they're hosting. She tells us she opted out of applying for another large art fair taking place at the same time so that she could specifically come to St. Joseph's event. She finds the prospect of taking part in the event to be absolutely exciting.
The reputation for this show is really, really high. You know, artists, we talk to each other, and every single person I've ever spoken to that's participated in this show has absolutely loved their experience.
Stroud works in ceramics and says her work is mostly in vessels, things like vases that come in unique shapes and sizes. She also says fairgoers should stop by any tent they like and chat up the artists. She knows some people are reluctant to do that because they don't want to feel pressured to buy anything, but Stroud says most artists are just happy to have a chance to share their work with the world. The Crownsville Art Fair will be Saturday and Sunday this weekend, featuring art in a variety of mediums, including paint, sculpture, ceramics, jewelry, glass, and more. And remember, the shuttle is back this year, making runs all day from the St. Joseph High School parking lot to the downtown area. That's a look at some of the local news that we have. We'll talk about more of it at 7:30. It's 7:11 right now. Sports is up next, and our conversation with Big Archie Davis, going to continue right now on the video live stream.
The Tigers.
All right, we're back on the video live stream. We should start at the beginning.
Okay.
Let's start at the very beginning, but first I want to talk a little bit. Let's mention your event that's happening this weekend.
Okay.
Let's talk about that, because then we have a couple messages, then we'll bring it back on the radio.
Okay.
So what's happening this weekend? The Northern Soul Beach Fest.
Right. Yeah, that's the Northern Soul Beach Fest is going on July the 12th at the Gene Clark Park. And it's 28 years we celebrating. Me and the promoter out of Chicago named Mr. Lee. And he's been doing it. He did work with so many artists over the world, with Michael Jackson, Dionne Warwick, Curtis Mayfield. Because he's out of Chicago.
Yeah.
And he's a legendary promoter. And I met him back in '82. I was at the Zodiac when they had a show up there, because he used to do so many variety of acts. Had a lot of acts come in, and he had his little busload full. And when I was back there DJing at the Zodiac back in the day, he say, "Who is this guy here?" He say, "He's a good DJ." He say, "This is Big Archie." He say, "Man," he say, "you know your music." He say, "You must be older." I say, "No, I'm in my average age. I was 30 years old. So I wasn't older." But he had, admired me. So I said, "Well, we ought to do something together at the beach." He always loved the beach here.
Yeah.
Because he used to travel back and forth. He traveled around the world. So I say, "Man, why don't you just start a blues fest here?" He say, "Okay." So he started getting things together, talking with a lot of artists around the world. And came, like Dramatics came here. It was so many, the Shy-Lights. I met the Shy-Lights. Marshall Thompson is the only original one left, because all the rest of them is gone. So he even got a new CD out at his age in the 80s.
Man.
Yeah, so he's doing well. I talked with him a lot, and I had talked to a lot of the artists around the world that they were so admiring to me. They say, "Mr. Lee, you got somebody that's really talented, a talented guy." He said, "You sure he ain't older than what you say, older than us?" I say, "No." And then Sam Chapman out of Chicago, all of those guys, Herb Kent, I was small when them guys was on radio, because they was on WGRT back in the day, AM station.
Yeah.
So one day I went over there, and we had a record shop called Barney's One Stop on 21st and Stony Island. So I met Barry White. And Barry White.
Barry White.
Barry White.
Oh, man.
And he say, "Hey, Shorty." I say, "Mr. White, Archie."
Wait. Do his voice. Hey, what did he say?
He say, "Hey, Shorty."
Hey, Shorty.
He say, "Hey, Shorty." I say, "Yeah." He was big. I say, he say, "Are you a DJ?" I say, "Yes, Mr. White." He say, "Where you DJ?" I say, "In Benton Harbor at the GNW skating ring." He say, "Oh, you're a skating ring jock, DJ?" I say, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I got a new song just come out called I'm Gonna Love You Just a Little Bit More." It was on the 20th Century Fox label. He said, "You know about labels too?" I say, "Yeah." He said, he looked at that guy, looked at him. He said, "He's a smart little guy." I said, "Yes, Mr. White." So that was the first 45 I got and played it for anybody else here in Benton Harbor.
Wow.
And it was good to meet him. But during that time, Ken, a lot of jocks, DJs, wish they was in the category when I was back then meeting all these entertainers. And Mr. Lee brought it out where I met each one of them. And we talk like me and you talking now. They down to earth.
Okay.
And they said, if you ever want to come over here and do things with us, let us know. I say, okay, I will. But I admired them. And for this, the beach, 28 years, that's a long time.
28 years. We're going to explore that in just a moment. We're going to continue the story. We've got to get a quick weather forecast, and then we'll be right back.
Partly cloudy skies today. We'll see off and on some scattered showers and a few thunderstorms. Most of them will be in the afternoon hours. Highs today right around 80. Tonight we'll see partly cloudy skies becoming clear overnight, dropping down to 64. And sunny and beautiful tomorrow. High temperatures will be in the lower 80s. We're back to some small chances of rain by Friday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:16 WSJM Morning Show continues. It's Wednesday, July 9th. You're in for a treat. I'm in for an education. It's going to be a great hour. We're talking with Big Archie. It's Archie Davis.
Right.
He's been a DJ here in the Benton Harbor area for 57 years now.
57.
We've already learned on the video live stream that you started when you were age 11.
Yeah.
This is why you look so young.
Well, I didn't have, Ken, a lot of people for 68 years old.
Wow.
And that's how old. And my brother, it was 12 of us. And my brother.
Wait, you have 11 brothers and sisters?
No, it was 12 of us all together.
Oh, okay.
And I lost 3.
I'm sorry.
And by me being the oldest out of all those, they always say, you say, brother, they say, mama say, your brother got a God-gift talent. And he said it comes on my side of the family. So mom and daddy used to have this debate all the time. I say, oh, here we go again. I say, daddy, I didn't want to be no fireman. Fireman is good. I say, I'm going to entertainment.
Oh, man.
So I used to sit on our porch at home, and he had one of them little turntables I got from VM Corporation.
Yeah, Voice of Music.
Voice of Music.
Yep.
That's actually where I brought all my equipment from back in the day.
No kidding.
Yeah, I brought all my
You still
equipment.
have any?
Still have it.
Do you?
Yeah.
You have any extra?
No, no, out of my donation.
All right.
But anyway, after, I used to sit on the porch and to myself and just go through genres of music. So, and back then, you had a lot of DJs, they only study on one type of music.
Okay.
You had to learn all genres, whether it's country, whether it's blues, whether it's jazz, R&B.
For the skating rink.
Well, for the skating ring.
Okay.
Yeah. You had to really know, because I had a lot of people back there told me, they say, well, if you know all genres of music, because you never know when someone to hire you, say, okay, we want you to play some rock and roll. So one day I went to a rock and roll thing over there, and they say, do you know anything about rock and roll? I say, yes. They say, Chubby Checker? I say, yes. They say, Drifters? I say, yes. They was naming down some songs, and they was talking about, what's his name? Shundale. He's staying now. So he called this guy's name, but he was a rock and roll singer back in the early part of the 60s, Tommy James.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people
And the Shondells, yep.
Yeah, a lot of people that know Tommy James staying now. Back in the day, I was doing research.
Wow.
Then he left and went out to California, and he was out there with the Beach Boys, all them guys out there and stuff. And I was young. They say, man, you know a lot about music. So they say, well, play me some rock and roll. So I played some rock and roll. I was doing all this stuff. They say, man, you smart. How old are you? I say, I'm 11 years old.
Wow.
And they say, I ain't never saw no 11-year-old. Well, a lot of people didn't know Michael Jackson when he stayed in Gary, Indiana. He was 7 years old.
Yeah.
When he started off.
Yeah.
And it's not, Ken, it's just you got a gift. And I thank God that I got this gift, because music was my passion anyway.
Yeah.
So I was running around with some heavyweights, and I was a little short guy.
Yeah.
And short, dumpy guy. So when I started off at the skating ring after that, so I would say, well, we're going to do some blues. Got with the promoters and Mr. Lee and stuff. And it's going to be a great event. It's this coming Saturday, and Northern Soul Blues. Because we had a lot of artists from the North.
Yeah.
That never got recognized. They always dealing with the straight off. Before Southern Soul, it was blues.
Okay. So
I deal with a lot of labels back in the South.
Yeah.
And some of the labels, went out. But, like Airco Records, so many of them, they got mostly all the blues singers in that area from Jackson, Mississippi, all the way down to St. Louis, Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And I talk with a lot of those artists. And those artists, you know, they want to come here to be a part of this event. And I told Mr. Lee, I say, well, you know, we got a lot of surprises coming, but we don't know who they is. I think his daughter know who it is. So I said, well, bring them on. So is this coming up Saturday? You know, gates open at 12.
Yeah.
And it goes to 10 o'clock.
And so that was how the Northern Soul Beach Fest was born.
Right.
Was that somebody came, Mr. Lee said, I like what you're doing here.
Yeah.
We should do something out on the beach.
On the beach, yeah. He say, Archie, I love the lakefront. I love the beach. He say, why don't we just throw some concerts here? I say, it'll work. And he say, well, with your blessings, I know it's gonna work. And ever since then, he's up in the 80s, but he still got the passion.
Yeah.
And for 28 years, I mean, that's a long, long time. We then went through a lot of artists.
Yeah.
From the Charlites, from the Delphonics, from the Intruders.
Oh man.
And man, a matter of fact, the Intruders, a lot of those artists back in the 70s, they was on Philadelphia label. So a lot of them came through this area. Then I think they did some shows over in the Silver Beach at the Shadowland Broadway. They used to come through that Bobby Blue Bland, BB King, and all of those guys. And then the Independents. And the Temptation never did come over here. But one, that was David Ruffin.
Yeah. But you had the Delphonics here.
Delphonics.
Wow.
Delphonics, Charlites, Dramatics, always Denise LaSalle, my friend Denise LaSalle, Millie Jackson. Always so many of them they had over there. And a lot of them they say, Archie, we wish we could come down, but they called us and tell us congratulations.
And it is a fest because the gates open at noon.
Yeah, 12 o'clock.
And you go till how long?
10 o'clock that night.
Okay.
And then we turn back around and go back to the Hilton, because I'm going to tell you the night before that, we're going to be at the Hilton Garden with the Steppers in White party. And that's been going on 18 years.
All right.
And
what is that?
That's like they get out there and step and have all their white on and stuff.
Nice.
And matter of fact, my friend Dawn from Hell for Later, she came out there and enjoyed herself last year. And she put it in the paper. It's supposed to come out Thursday.
Okay.
And this will be our 18th year doing that at the Hilton Garden, Steppers in White. Wow. And it starts up at 8 o'clock and go from 8 until 12. Wow. And then I had to turn back around and get up the next day, go out to the beach, get all that prepared. We got a long day ahead of us for that.
Yeah.
And so many people are excited because Ken, we did that for 28 years. And I don't know nobody that ever did a run like that.
Yeah.
Before that's having entertainment. And a lot of the people are so glad, because some of the peoples had never met these entertainers up close.
Sure.
Besides seeing them on TV and stuff. But they so excited, and I'm excited. And for this, me starting off, it's a long story. It might take 3 hours of your
Boy, I tell you, we could do the whole show. But so paint a picture for those who know Gene Clark Park, the beach there. I mean, it's long and thin. It's right there on the coast.
On the coast.
How do you set it up?
Well, we usually set it up like we got, the platform is not really actually too big enough. But we kind of make it because we have VIP sections up in the front.
Where do you put the platform? Where's the stage?
The stage is on top of the stage. Well, what it is, we got the big old stage out there.
Okay.
So the entertainers be on top of there.
So I picture like the concession stand and the restrooms and that stuff.
Okay, the concession stands, they all the way in the back, as usual. Then we got some toilet pilots be there.
Okay.
And we got food vendors, they be lined up in the stretch, going down all the way, probably it'd be past the refreshment stand, because we have like sometimes 7, 8 vendors.
Man.
And they have clothes vendors, food vendors, all kind of vendors come. They
what is
that?
So then the stage will be set up.
Right.
How long did it take you to put this together? Because how many acts do you have coming on through?
We got 7 acts.
Wow.
7 acts, and it don't really, after the sound man come out there, we usually start early in the morning, because on the Highway 63, I say, I'm coming. So it don't really take long, because we in such a routine, because a lot of the stuff we do, like for that, they bring in the toilet pilots and the trash liners. We do that Friday and get everything set up that evening and stuff, but it don't really take long. Okay. And a lot of people say, oh, that's a lot of hard work. I say, well, when you've been doing this for 28 years, it's easy because I'm the only one in this area is doing my part, and then Mr. Lee, we got people around in Detroit, we got St. Louis, Clarksdale, Mississippi, South Bend. We got a lot of other people doing their part. So we all come together.
Yeah.
And everybody plays where to get the tickets, location, and all this stuff because I'm the one sell tickets here in Shaw's Barbershop down the street.
Okay.
So we the only two in this area that's selling the tickets.
How much are they?
The tickets for the Northern Soul Blues Fest is $90 for tickets.
Okay.
$100 at the gate.
Okay.
And for the Steppers in White the night before that, the tickets are $40 and $45 at the door.
Okay.
That's the night before that.
And again, the best way they can get tickets if they're interested.
They could call me, Archie Davis, 269-252-9997, or they can call, I don't know Shaw's new number. He got a new number, but they can go to Shaw's Barbershop right here down on Napier.
Okay.
Yeah, and they get tickets for him because we the only two in this area selling the tickets.
Okay. And so that's coming up Saturday. It's going to be Gene Clock Park, noon to 10 p.m. You've got 7 acts. It's the Northern Soul Blues Beach Fest, right? Mm-hmm. And it's been going 28 years strong. And you were there. You were part of the origination of this.
But me and Mr. Lee, we illustrated this and got all this put together because he could have went anywhere else, and he could have. Well, actually, by he living in Chicago, he said, "Well, Archie, I could have went any other city and started," but he say, my version would come here because he been doing so many acts around the city. And he say, when he met up with me, it was a God gift because he met up with me and my wife that she used to go. He was crazy about my wife that she passed away last year. And she always used to go and encourage him and they talk spiritually, he's a God person. And he said, well, my friend, we done made it 28 years, hung in here with me. I said, yeah. I say, we did it. And a lot of people say that's a lot of work, which is if someone's just starting off, it might be a lot to them. But if you have a routine, everybody does their part. Yeah. And by me, was in the skating ring, but I learned that long time ago when I went down there, when I had to deal with them 500 kids, oh, great sakes. And when I met Mr. Rex Shealy years ago, and I met his brother, Rex Wheeler, he had a skating ring up in Niles.
Okay.
So I used to go up there and do Monday nights. Then I come back down here in GNW. So I was running back and forth.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it was great fun. And still today it's fun to me. The DJs say, boy, that's a lot of hard work. I say, no, it's not. You just got to have the patience.
Hey, we're running up on another break here, but you talk about DJing. How do you feel the evolution of the DJ role has gone? What do you think about it?
I think it's gone
because we don't have there's not much vinyl anymore. They still use it.
Well, in the big cities, I know my friend in New York, and Chicago and Detroit, they still use it. But back then when I was coming up, it was all about the turntables, and I was using 4 turntables.
4.
So I was mixing. I was going ready to see. I used to tell those guys, I say, now when you come skating, you might well get ready to have your extra pair of shorts on because you're going to sweat those out. They say, what you mean? I say, you finna see. So I had the 4 turntables going around. I was going one time to another one, back and forth, and forth. But the DJs here, they got it kind of easy now because they don't have
they can pre-program everything, right? They just stand up there and dance.
Yeah, just dance. and they got the phones. They plug in there and say, y'all got it easy because if y'all was back in our day in the 70s, you had to work. I mean, can you imagine how many songs you go through?
Oh man,
you go through about 500 or 600 songs in less than an hour time.
And the turntables, when you started, the turntables probably weighed a little bit more.
They did, and we had 45s.
Yeah,
see, we had 45s, so that means you had to play more music. And I still got 2 sets of music because I got my 45s. I got them locked up, and everybody say, hey, you want to sell them? I say, no. So then I had my vinyl, the 12-inch. The big vinyl.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people didn't know what 12 inches were. That's an intended version. So that means if you had a 45 that lasts so many minutes, but you want the long version of that song, they called it the 12-inch.
Oh.
And this is an extended version. So that means you might be playing Saturday Night Fever.
Yeah.
And you turn around and say, well, I want to get the long version to make it longer.
Yeah.
And that's what they do in the disco. That's when the disco craze came out in the late 70s. Boy, everything, KC and all that. I met KC years ago. He used to come through before it was any casino. They used to do a review. And they say, KC coming through the area, but he never did play in the area. He mostly was way up in Detroit, but he used to come through here.
Really?
KC and the Sunshine.
No
from,
kidding.
Yeah, they from Florida, Miami, Florida.
But they came through here.
They came through here. And he was young then.
My wife, Stephanie, and I torture her with Casey and the Sunshine Band every so often.
Wow.
Yeah, I love it. She doesn't.
Well, you know, he's doing the show at the Horseshoe Casino.
Get out.
On the 11th. Matter of fact, he's doing the show this Friday.
Well.
At the Horseshoe Casino.
Okay.
And he's on the 70s. 70s.
I got plans. Here we go.
Go up there to the casino.
It's 7:30. We're talking with the big Archie Davis, here on the WSJM Morning Show. He's celebrating 57 years as a DJ here in Benton Harbor, and you can tell we've got a lot of stories to get through in a short amount of time. We're not going to get to a fraction of them, but we'll try. Also, the Northern Soul Blues Beach Fest is this weekend, Saturday, July 12th at Gene Clock Park. It goes from noon to 10 p.m. Tickets available through Big Archie right here, or you can buy them at the barbershop.
Right, Shaw's Barber.
Okay, in downtown. All right, it's 7:31. Back with more in just a moment. We've got news from Bloomberg, financial news from Bloomberg, our world and national news from ABC, our local news. It's all coming up next. We'll continue the conversation on our video live stream. I think I agree with you that the DJs have it easier.
They do, Ken.
Because you can carry a music library.
Right.
Any genre, any song, any artist, right here.
Right, that's true.
Don't even know how good the artist is.
That's right. Don't know the background of it or nothing, Ken. And it makes it so bad. You know, I tell a lot of the young DJs, because they all call me their big brother. The young's coming up, so I say, Archie, y'all was using this back in the day? I say, yes, we was using that. I said, but y'all got it easy, because y'all just got to sit there and just press buttons.
Yeah.
But the only problem is when you go to look for songs, you'll be singing all day long.
Yeah.
And some of those songs is out of print.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, a lot of those songs is hard to get. And I constantly talk to artists, and I be on that chat when they got a lot of talent artists out now. Yeah. And you got a lot of DJs is coming out. Like I say, everything is different now. Yeah. But it was easier. It was easier for me because I was studying how the way the disc jockeys for my time, how the way they was doing stuff, and they was showing me the ropes. Yeah, tell me how the way you talk, how the way you do this, how the way you gotta blend, know your crowd. Yeah, and know if you got a crowd. Back then, I was man. When I'm 15, I was doing crowds for older people. I did weddings. Yeah, 60 at weddings, 70 parties, and I mean, you know, reunions. And the people say, you know, you're kind of young to know all this gender of music, but when you study your craft, and like I tell all the DJs, you have to learn all genders of music. Because somebody hire you, say, I want you to play, you know, blues, and you don't know it. You just lost out on the job. Yeah. So for me, a real DJ had to know all genders of music. Yeah, have an appreciation for it and really understand it, you know, and stuff. And a lot of those guys, you know, it just, you know, they learning. Yeah. And I support them. Yeah. You know. Yeah, no, I'm encouraged because I have 3 boys, and one of my boys, Sawyer, he likes to DJ. And so he took his gear to college with him when he went. And at his second party, when he was DJing, he said, he asked one of his friends, hey, watch my stuff. Right. I've got to go use the restroom. Right. Okay, and then what's the first thing I told him? I said, don't let anyone put any drinks on your table. Oh, no. Don't let anyone put any drinks on your table. He said, so he told his friend, don't have anyone put their drink. What'd they do? They put a drink on his table, and a whole cup of something went into his computer. Oh, great. Computer gone. Yeah, that costs party gone. Yeah, because you know what the people say, well, we paid you to come in here. You better go sing or do something, you know. But I didn't have a lot. You know what? I don't drink or nothing, but during the time, always kept it signed, don't come beyond this area. Right. Yeah. You know, even my friends, the one that used to drink. And I say, man, you had to stay over there with that because you tipped it on my stuff. And back then, you didn't have no backup. Yeah. You know, but I used to carry an extra amp with me, you know, in case something go wrong, or an extra mixer, because you could be doing the set and all of a sudden your stuff cut off, you done blow something. Oh, yeah. Then you got almost 300 or 400 people and they don't want to hear that. No. You better get up there and sing or do something. 5 minutes in that situation, 5 minutes probably feels like a lifetime or two. It do. And I have done a lot of weddings when guys had, you know, these days equipment costs a lot of money. Oh, yeah. And back then, when I was dealing with VM, because this is when all the DJs was dealing with VM, they had some good turntables. I mean, Ken.
Did you see the turntables we have on the way in? We have one of the consoles.
Yeah.
We have another one in one of the rooms.
Right.
Yeah. So sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and they was the only one in the area during that time was selling equipment. Because we had guys come out of Chicago, come all the way down here.
I bet.
And you know, Chicago got lots of audio places, but speakers and oh man, but I don't do no lifting that stuff no more. So all I do when I go to concert, I just bring my set and then plug it up to the sound man.
Yeah.
And then they check the sound and see, because you know they got tower speakers and all that stuff there. So they say, how can you stand to be up? I say, well, I've been up here for years. And music don't, but the sound don't bother me. They say, you're not deaf yet? I say, no, I'm not.
You were careful.
I was careful, Ken.
Yeah.
I was careful.
How many vinyl records would you say you have right now?
Oh, man, I think I got those thousands because I got a shed that I got them in. Then I got over my cousin's house. You know, she got a basement, and I got them from here, Ken, all the way around things. He said, if you ever want to sell them, I say, no. I say, you're trying to tell me I had to get them out your house?
Oh,
he said,
man.
no. But they've been there, and I got 2 sets, and I still got my 45s stacked up, you know, all the way around, because back then the people say, and I had a lot of offers for my music.
I bet.
Even time.
Hold on one second.
Okay.
Sorry, we've got to get back on the air here.
Okay.
It's this time thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but time go fast. Time go fast.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
6 points. Futures edged higher this morning. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
The Morning Show with Ken and Friends on 94.9 WSJM.
7:36. It's the WSJM Morning Show for your Wednesday, July 9th. I'm Ken Lundberg. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest this hour is Big Archie Davis.
Yep.
Man, this is fun.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thank you for coming in today. This has been really good. We still have some more time, so we're going to get to a lot of it. We're going to continue on the video live stream.
Okay.
But he's been a personality here in Benton Harbor, a DJ for 57 years. You still DJ now?
Yeah, I DJ now. I'm not in the clubs anymore. I mostly do a lot of weddings and concerts and stuff because mine was an asthmatic, you know, and I had to get out there. Back then, that smoke. So I decided, I'm a 2000. I'm just going to get out of the club scene and mostly just do my concerts and do weddings and reunions and stuff like that, you know, and everything. Because I did my years in club. Matter of fact, I used to go down the highway to Bachelor 14 Club in Kalamazoo.
Okay.
And back in the 80s. And I used to run down that highway back and forth. And I got tired. I said, well, I'm tired of going down the highway. Then I had jobs in Chicago with my friend at Michigan City. I was all over the place back then, you know, and so it was fun. But I decided as I got older, to say, well, I'm just going to stay bound, you know, let somebody call me. It had to be real to get me to drive way down the road.
Oh, man.
But I would travel, but I don't do it as much as I used to do back then.
Yeah.
You know, I just slowed down a lot.
And you're also still bringing the entertainment here locally because you've got the big Northern Soul Blues Beach Fest coming up this Saturday at Gene Clark Park. So we'll talk about that and more about Archie's background here in just a moment on WSJM. First, we've got to get some more news in. The latest now from ABC.
ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. The death toll in Central Texas has now reached 110 people, but the more staggering number is 170 still missing after the July 4th flash flooding. Eloise Jones was one of the girls from Camp Mystic who survived and says she was shocked by what she saw the night the water began rising.
From our cabins, we could see the highway, and you usually can't see that. So we could see it all the way past all the trees that used to be there. And then we realized, we can't stay here.
Camp Mystic lost 27 campers and counselors and is still missing 5 campers and 1 counselor. 3 people were killed overnight in Rio Doso, New Mexico, where recent wildfires have made the area more prone to flash flooding. City of Philadelphia has reached a tentative agreement with 9,000 city workers who have been on strike since the beginning of the month. The rank and file still need to vote on it. Ukraine's Air Force says Russia sent a record 728 drones into Ukraine overnight. This is ABC News.
WSJM News now. Team coverage from the WSJM newsroom on News Talk Sports 94.9 WSJM.
Good morning and welcome again to the WSJM Morning Show. I'm Ken Lundberg. Coming up at 8 o'clock this morning, about 20 minutes away, we'll have the latest news from our WSJM newsroom, including no relief yet for users of the Bicentennial Bridge connecting St. Joseph and Benton Harbor. Officials now say that bridge will likely remain off limits to land vehicle traffic at least through Thursday. MDOT's still trying to figure out exactly why the bridge won't close properly. So more on that as we receive it. Also, Benton Harbor area schools have selected a new superintendent. Going into their meeting last night, the Board of Education had 2 finalists, and they selected Dr. Simone Griffin. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. And also, Benton Harbor City Commissioners have voted to purchase 9 foreclosed properties before they're auctioned off to the county. They're thinking some housing, maybe some park use for that. So those stories and more coming up at 8 o'clock right here on the WSJM Morning Show. We're continuing our discussion with Big Archie Davis here in just a moment on the video live stream. It's fascinating, so tune in. We'll be back here on the radio as well in just a couple of moments. First, we've got the latest state news and then sports.
The Michigan.
All right, and we have to thank City Commissioner Ethel Clark Griffin for bringing you to my attention.
Right, yeah.
She connected us.
Yeah, she did.
And how do you know Ethel?
I met Ethel way back when she was first running for commissioner and stuff. And I was telling her about, she had came here, I think, in the late 70s. And I was telling her about all the things and about the skating ring and stuff. She say, Big Archie, before she called me Big Archie, she say, Mr. Archie. She always called me Big Archie.
Mr. Archie.
So she say, Mr. Archie, she said, I saw the skating ring because I know some of my peoples and stuff back in the day. And she say, I saw the skating ring down there, but we couldn't go skating. I say, yeah, well, back then, a lot of parents didn't want the kids to go different places. So she said, I heard about your name. I was wondering. So her friends used to say, I know that's Big Archie, the DJ skating ring. So that's how I met Ethel. And then she started off, say, well, I'm running for commissioner. And she did Ken such a wonderful job, in the city. And you would think that there was 1,000 of her, but one person, she really looks out for the homeless. She really looks out for the same. She looks out for the peoples in the community. And so many people love her, but she got the biggest ward.
Yeah.
And
Ward 4.
Ward 4. And she always supports, she been supporting me ever since I first met her. She said, it's a lot of, she said, you need to tell your story, Archie. I say, yeah. I say, because Ben Spear, Tabella Briders did my first story when she first started, and had nobody back then, covered me and didn't even know me really, until they realized my father was a firefighter, and he was the first. They were the first. It was 5 of them, and they honored them with the key to the city 3 years ago. And John Billis was the last original one. All of them was my father's friends back in the 50s and 60s. So when they honored him, they say, you look just like your father. So I go down there and talk to my friends, Brian, at the fire station, and Ryan and them. And I told them, I say, man, this building bring back a lot of memories. I used to ride my bike down there. And they say, yeah, that's right. Archie Davis was your father, the one that got honored for the key to the city, him and the 6 firefighters in Benton Harbor. I said, yeah, and stuff. So they say, you didn't want to be a fireman? I say, no. I'm going to tell you, like I told my father, music. They say, yeah, I heard about you. So that's why I met Ethel. Ethel always been a good, motivation. She helps me. And, after I lost my wife and my 2 brothers, last month, one from cancer and one from diabetes. I'm sorry. Yeah. And she told me, she said, Archie, she said, you got to keep going. And she said, so many people in Benton Harbor that they didn't know. They know that I started at the GNW, but they didn't know the whole story alone. When I did some fundraisers for the fire chief, Benton Harbor Fire Department back then, Mr. Means, they formed something. They said, we got to raise money for sickle cell. I said, I didn't know what sickle cell was until they explained to me, because my stepson, he had sickle cell. He passed away 8 years from that. And I said, well, let's do it, So we did a 24-hour skating thon.
Wow.
And it was me and John Newby, my other friend down. He said, do you think you could spin records for 24 hours? I said, well, you don't give me a break. So we started from it was 5 that evening and went all the way. And that took me a little break off, and I feel sorry for the skaters because I didn't play nothing fast for them. It was something like slow where they could have badges on the back of their back.
Yeah.
And this one girl and couple, they won it. I forgot their names, but they won it. But it was more fun and just raising money.
Raising money for sickle cell anemia. Yeah.
Anemia. So we did that. That's why sickle cell wasn't as really bad as it is now, because now they got some kind of, make you the sickle cell.
Yeah, all kinds of things. I saw a report, and we'll talk about it next hour, about CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, saying 1 out of 3 young people, teens, have pre-diabetes.
Yeah.
1 out of 3.
Yeah, 1 out of 3. Yeah, that's bad. And it's so much back then, just like when you had the cancer and you had polio, you had all that stuff.
Yeah.
The measles.
Yeah.
But all that stuff was back in the 50s and 60s. And now, seems like
it's like bell-bottom jeans. They'll come back.
Come back on you. And I say, do y'all know what to do? And then they just say, put some sardine oil on your face and keep all that. I say, oh, Mom, I can't go through that stuff. But they had the old remedies. And the doctors back then, they had excellent doctors.
Yeah.
And so after that, we decided to say, well, we need to do something about, the crime and stuff in the community. That's how Stop the Violence. So I met up with Sister Joe Mary. She was a sweet lady. And she asked me, I was at the skating rink during the time. She said, we want to have something like, we got to reach to the kids in the communities. We got to let them stop the violence. I said, okay, we're going to have one. They had it over there on this church on Columbus.
Yeah.
And we had over 400 or 500 kids back then. And everybody, I talked with a lot of the kids, and I talked to a lot of, back then, you had a lot of kids was, I ain't going to say out of control, but they didn't have no mentors. And a lot of that come from, back then you had a lot of mentors, but there wasn't as many in the area. So by me being at the GNW, that was a household name. Everybody used to come down there. I say, well, we're going to have a Stop the Violence and walk the streets and tell them, back then it wasn't too much of the guns. It was just, kids were just getting out of control.
Yeah.
And a lot of them didn't have no father figure in their life.
Yeah.
And I stopped a lot of kids. I stopped a lot of guys from going to prison. And as they got older, they come up to me, and tell me now, since they heard about my anniversary, they say, Archie, some of them call me Big Archie. They say GNW. Then they get to act like they skating. And I say, yeah, they say, oh man, we love you. You inspired us, man. You stopped us from getting in a lot of trouble. And you are the last original one left, which I'm the last original one left.
Wow. Hey, hold that thought.
Okay.
We'll be right back and talk more about this in just a moment.
On 80. Tonight, we'll see partly cloudy skies becoming clear overnight, dropping down to 64. And sunny and beautiful tomorrow. High temperatures will be in the lower 80s. We're back to some small chances of rain by Friday. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
The Morning Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
7:47. It's the WSJM Morning Show. I was mentioning to Big Archie here. The hour's almost up, man.
Yeah, it goes fast.
It goes real fast. Let's make this part of our Moody on the Market update. It's brought to you this hour by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today, your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. We're talking this morning with Archie Davis, Big Archie, and he's been a personality here in the area for decades, a DJ for now 57 years. He started when he was 11 years old.
Yep.
He's also here as one of the originating founders and organizers still today of the Northern Soul Blues Beach Festival, which is happening this Saturday at Gene Clock Park, noon to 10 p.m. And we thank you for what you've done in the community.
Oh, thank you.
We were just talking on the video live stream about some of the violence that has plagued the area for many years. And one of the things that was brought out, the Benton Harbor City Commission is going through the nuisance laws. Right now to crack down on these illegal block parties. And one of the people stood up and said, we don't want these nuisance laws because we're just looking for somewhere to gather, somewhere to socialize, something to do. And that's where these gatherings happen. It used to be that they do it at the GNW.
Right. Well, they used to do it at the GNW, but back then, Ken, we had security, and then I knowed everybody.
Yeah.
And before I put a record on anything, I say, look, this place is for you to have fun, not to gather, not to stand on the outside, not to congregate. You got to be inside and say, look, we want this. All it takes is one person to make it bad for everybody else.
Yeah.
And today, the way I see it, by me being back there, they don't have anything to do. And when the parents got to get involved, because see, back then when we was throwing skating parties and they were throwing dance matinees and stuff, I had DJs down. The parents was more involved, in the kids. But now, sometimes, you got to have adults got to take responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And you can build 1,000 places around it, but if you ain't got your house in order, and from day one, you can't, number one, back in the day, they didn't too much hang around on the outside or gathering because we had things to do.
Yeah.
We had the skating ring, you had the little disco halls for matinee kids. And I mean, now you don't even have too much of nothing here. That's what me and Commissioner Elton was talking about. She said, Archie, you know what? There's nothing here for the kids but to do, because I kept the kids busy 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So that means from Monday, even though I was up in Niles, I had the other DJs was down there. We had matinee skating. And by the time they get through skating, Ken, they ain't worrying about hulling, trying to fight or do nothing. But right now,
you tire them out.
Yeah, turn them out. They say, and then they'll go home. And then one of them used to try to go to the clubs, but they couldn't get in there because some of them weren't old enough to get in the club, so they wasn't letting them in there.
Yeah.
So I think now what they're doing, they're trying to congregate, but is make their own parties. But you got to realize when you got an establishment, it's not really all they offer is making money. They're not really the safety of other people's, and they just gearing outside.
Right.
That's caused a problem.
Right.
And you got to have some kind of a, structure and security to say, look, you either come in or you just keep moving.
Yeah.
But a lot of them, they'll get with their friends. Then they want to, here come the alcohol involved. Then they get geeked up with that alcohol, and then they go, okay, you get to fighting. When I saw that on TV, I say, we had our share of fights back then, but it wasn't nothing like, well, they doing this every day, but they got to come up with a solution. And doing a nuisance is fine, but you're still not solving the problem.
Yeah.
Because if they don't have nothing to do, and you don't have no security in line to say, hey, you either come in, you're not going to be gathering around congregating.
Right.
Because you're making it bad on everybody else. That's why a lot of people tell me every day, they say, Archie, we wish you had the skating ring. Even I had guys from the Chicago back in the 80s wanted to come invest in a skating ring here. And, by not Sister Late, up there in Waterbury.
Yeah.
I mean, Stephenville.
Okay.
The guy, Robert, he sold that. So really, the kids don't have nothing to do. And I wish I could I told the city, you know what, all to give me a platform floor and all that area out there and go rent me a floor and just have it, the kids to come down and skate to help. They say, you ought to do that, Archie. First thing I say, they say, no, I say, I can't do that. But I say, they say, well, you should, we'll help you.
Yeah.
So
you bring up a really good point, because you talk about the structure, right? And you probably remember this, but I remember this as well. If you were at the dance and you had a beef with somebody, you said, let's take it outside.
Let's take it outside.
Because why? Because outside, they were trying to get outside the structure of the security and the piers and everything else.
That's true.
Keep it all civil. And so now with the illegal block parties that are happening, there's no structure like that. They're already outside.
Well, they outside and they just going. It's just like if I have block parties, which I used to throw house parties back in the day. It was more better than it is now.
Okay.
And there wasn't no shooting and you had to ride bullets and none of that stuff.
Right.
But the point is, what I'm saying, Ken, that everybody got to be responsible for their actions. And if you got even the owners of the establishment,
right,
that's the first thing he should have done. When you got a larger piece of it, you ain't got no security, which I didn't see, none instruction.
Yeah.
All you doing is making money, but you're not looking at the consequence. What if somebody got killed on your property?
Right.
Then the first thing they're going to say, where your security at?
Yeah.
Well, I had some, I mean, you're making it bad. And then all the other adults that want to come out and have fun,
right,
they're afraid to come out. And I know I could too much blame them, but putting the nuisance orders, it'll stop, but it's not going to still stop the gathering the crowd. Because when you don't have nothing in place and don't have no security that's enforcing it, the owners that own the establishment, that's where you got to start them first. Hey, look, if you can't get no security or get some kind of control your crowd, well, they either shut you down,
Yeah.
and you make it bad on because everybody is not bad, and that's what Elto, Fourth Ward Commissioner, we was talking about that and stuff. But she's only one person. But it all starts. Everybody out there was grown. They responsible for these actions themselves.
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you talk about Commissioner Ethel, it's Commissioner Ethel Clark Griffin,
Right.
and I'm sure she'll be involved in the discussion. And in fact, there's a hearing at Benton Harbor City Commission later on tonight.
Tonight
on the in the Public Safety Committee talking about this nuisance order. But let's wrap up the Moody on the Market update. It's brought to you by Insurance Management Service. Call IMS today. They are your local auto owners insurance agency in St. Joseph and in Niles. And thanks for being part of the Moody on the Market update, because we have the Moody on the Market update because we talk about business updates, life in Southwest Michigan, and why we love it here, and interesting people you should know.
Right.
If you're not an interesting person that we should know, I don't know who is.
Right. Well, you know what, Ken? You know, it's I admired this radio station because I was used to listen to, I think it was, I don't know, they was playing classic old school on Sundays.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know it's in this building somewhere, but they don't.
We got a lot of radio stations.
But anyway, I think it wasn't WRX. It was another Cozy, I think.
Cozy.
And they was playing old school on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I say, man, so I talked with one of the guys, I forgot his name. And I mean, they
probably Paul or somebody.
Yeah, they was playing it every Sunday. It was going back in the 50s and 60s. And one lady told me, she said, Archie, I used to tell them, I say, turn the radio on Sundays. And I say, they Cozy is playing the old school, and stuff. And I don't hear it no more, but but what I'm saying is that, the radio stations, people's these days, they like to still go back down memory lane.
Yes.
And listen to some of those old schools and blues. That's why we kept it going here, me and Mr. Lee, because the blues been around for a long, long time before I was born, jazz and all that stuff. So, we gonna try to keep the momentum going and stuff, because he would say, well, I think if I hit 30, the year 30, I'm gonna retire. He said, what you gonna do? I say, well, I had to keep it going. I may not do the concerts no more, because he was talking about it the other day.
Okay.
He was saying that, well, you got to look at it. He's 85 years old.
Wow. Mr. Lee.
Mr. Lee.
Okay.
And he always, everybody say, you don't look his age. Like Archie, they say, you don't look your age.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people that know Mr. Lee had trainers that used to train him, but he used to do flips.
Okay.
And then setups.
Did he really?
Yeah, he used to do that in his show. He had an act that him and his friend had a part of this act that they used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
And he say, a lot of people don't know, I got trained like you get trained for boxing, you get trained for this. So he was trained, but he don't do those flips or none of them setups no more.
Hang on just one moment. We got to get back. We got a couple more messages here. We're going to conclude this interview in just a moment. We're talking with Big Archie Davis, right here on the WSJM Morning Show.
Insurance Management Service.
Okay, let's see. I've got this here. Let me make sure I'm good. We got that one. Sorry, I got to back time the commercials here. You get to back time music. Right. I get to back time the commercials.
Okay. There's a lot of music.
Man, oh man. Anything ever go sideways?
Well, no, not too much, because I guess I have everything correct, the right place. And and a lot of people say, well, you're going to take us back down memory lane this Saturday. I say, I'm going to do a little bit of it because they don't want me to do too much, because I got DJs coming down transit, and I got Lady Red from V103 in Chicago, FM station. She say, well, you just do about an hour and we want you to rest and celebrate yourself. I say, okay, take us down there. They in Chicago, they call it Dusties.
Oh.
And Benton Harbor, we called it old school. So in Chicago, they call it Dusty Records.
Okay.
They dusty. We would take you down dusty roads. And I say, oh, my goodness sake. That was my friend Herb Ken and Sam Chapman say, Big Archie, we don't say old school here. We say dusties.
Dusties.
Yeah,
that's good to know. That's good. We're going to go Dusties next hour.
Yeah, exactly.
Right here on WSJM. No. We've got to wrap up the interview. I've got news from ABC coming up in just a moment. And Big Archie, we'll have to have you back because this has been great.
Yeah, I'd love to come back here anytime, you want me to come back. Zelda say, Archie, she say, I know Ken going to be excited. He say, you're going to talk to her tomorrow morning. I say, oh, grease safe, Ethel. But that's my friend. She's really good.
Hang on just one second.
Show with Ken Lundberg on WSJM.
An hour is not enough, but that's what we had.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Well, do well this weekend. We appreciate Archie Davis, Big Archie, for coming in and celebrating with us his 57 years.
57.
Congratulations on going strong.
Thank you, my man.
Another 57 more on the way. You've got the Northern Soul Beach Fest coming up this weekend at Gene Clock Park.
Right.
It starts at noon.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Okay, glad to be here.
We appreciate you. It's 8 o'clock.
Okay.
From ABC News, I'm Sherry Preston. In Central Texas, recovery crews